Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some I Know the Owner stories.
The first story is called Brother of the Owner. I used to work at my Italian friend's cafe. It was a nice 20s style cafe. Red paint, cherub fixtures, white and black detailing. Tea leaf readings, faux gold inlays. Me in my stupid 20s working in a place that could have passed for the roaring 20s. A man walks in. He makes a beeline for the register. "I'm the brother of the owner," he explains. "Matthew or Mark?" I ask, knowing that the three brothers are named after the first chapters of the Bible. "I work for Luke, so it's obviously not him." He said, "Mark." I ask with foolish enthusiasm, "Fantastic. Would you like a coffee while you wait?" And he says, "Skim flat white." So I say, "Absolutely. Take a seat here while I make your coffee and get your mother." I watch as he sits down uncomfortably. He said, "There's no need to get her, she's probably tired." I thought to myself, what a thoughtful son. He knows his mother is going through a lot and does not want to disturb her. She is a lovely woman but has some serious health problems. I make his coffee and bring it and his mother from the apartment from above the cafe. I say, "Look Mercia, how lovely it is that your son has come all the way from the city 4 hours flight away." Poor Mercia and her Alzheimer's. She didn't recognize her own son. They sat and enjoyed their coffee while I retrieved the owner from his consultation with a client. I exclaim with much joy, "Your brother has come all the way here to visit." He asked, "Mark?" The joy of joys, my overworked boss who is running his own business and looking after his sick mother has a surprise family reunion with his brother. Luke gets to the table that his mother and Mark are sitting at. His mother is the first to speak. She asked, "Luke, who is this man? I've never seen him in my life." I interject, "Mercia, that's your son. Don't you recognize him?" And she said, "I've never seen him before." Luke looks at me, "I've never seen him before either." Mark stands up and exclaims, "There's been a mistake," before bolting for the door. And that, my dear friends, is how I accidentally scared off a scammer. Mercia is fine by the way. Lives in an apartment complex 1 floor below Luke who is turning 90 and 70 respectively next year. The next story is called Married to the Owner. I work at a large chain pizza place, but in a smaller town that no one really knows exists. We only have carry-out and delivery. The store has a landlord but also my boss is considered the owner of this store, even though it's a chain restaurant. Two different people though that own this building. So, this Karen comes in one morning while I'm the manager on shift, and the only person there is my delivery driver. The driver is 20 and male, I'm 24 and female, but I honestly look very young. We weren't allowed to have any customers come indoors, we walk to their car. So I very politely inform Karen that she can't come indoors and I'll be more than happy to assist her at her car. She said, "That won't be necessary, I'm allowed in here." I explained, "No ma'am, we aren't allowed to have any customers indoors per the healthcare policy, we could get temporarily shut down if so." She said, "My husband is the owner, just take my order." Now, the landlord isn't married, he comes around a lot and he's very young, like my age. I think he inherited all the properties he owns. And my boss is married to the absolute sweetest person I've ever known and they both live an hour away in a different state. Karen is like the mid-40s and definitely not the sweet woman I have known for years. So I said, "Ma'am, I'm very sorry but you're not married to the owner. I'm going to need you to step outside of the store and I would be more than happy to assist you outside." Karen exploded, "Excuse me? I can get you fired, you little idiot." So I said, "Okay, I hope you do, but I still need you to step outside of the store so I can take your order." Karen didn't like this and said, "I won't take this treatment. I'll call the owner and get you fired." I didn't care and said, "Okay, while you do that I'm going to call the actual owner so he can tell you to step outside of the store." Karen grabs her phone and starts calling someone. I call my boss and explain the situation. While I'm talking, Karen interrupts me to say, "He says you're fired, you're too young to really be working here anyway. I don't know why he hired you to work but you don't work here anymore." My boss overhears this and starts laughing and asks to be put on speakerphone. He said, "Ma'am, I'm the owner of the store and I would never allow my wife, who's sitting next to me, to come into the store during this time. It's a violation of current health laws and we have the right to call authorities if necessary. Please step outside the door." Karen is like screeching that it's the other owner, the landlord, but she calls him by the wrong name. My boss started laughing again because the land has no control over the actual store, he just owns the building and we pay him rent. The landlord also is currently right outside, working on the roof. So at this point, I say, I didn't know the landlord got married, I'll go congratulate him, come on let's go. So I walk outside and Karen is following me, calling me all kinds of things. I yell, hey landlord, do you mind coming down for a second? Karen looks absolutely mortified at this point. She definitely messed up and she knows it. But I'm gonna keep rolling with it. At this point, the landlord came down from the ladder, very confused. I said, hey landlord, your new wife here says you just fired me, and that she's allowed indoors. Now, I didn't know you got married, I'm so happy for you. He said, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to get off my property, I have no authority to fire anyone and you're already a witch. He puts up with absolutely nothing and is really protective over me. Karen mumbles something I still can't understand and then says, I can't believe a teenager is doing this to me. She then turns to go to her car. The landlord said, she's actually older than me, and has far more patience than I do. Don't ever come back onto my property. Now Karen just calls and asks for delivery, which I will happily do. The landlord and I still laugh about it all the time. The last story is called, Would You Treat the Owner's Parents That Way? This happened a few years ago. I have friends that we'll call J and D. J and D are old school country folk with old-fashioned down-home values. They are not poor but save money and are frugal but not cheap. So, J and D were heading home one night on a lonely bit of highway in the middle of nowhere when they see a car on the side of the road and stop to offer assistance. J is a bit of a shade tree mechanic and takes a look, and the car had a cracked radiator hose and had overheated. While patching it up, they start talking about this and that. J and D were celebrating their 25th anniversary in a few days and were excited about going into town and eating at their favorite restaurant. Their new friend explains that he was in town to check on a restaurant he owned and would love to host their anniversary dinner as a thank you. J and D try to decline, but the guy isn't having it. He asks them to meet him tomorrow night at the restaurant at 6 p.m. and gives them his card. J and D go home and tell the story to their daughter, who looks at the card and realizes that the guy was a famous actor who co-owned a very expensive restaurant downtown. J and D don't want to take advantage and were tempted to not go when their daughter threatened them with anything and everything she could. J and D dress up in their countryfolk finest and hop in their truck. Now, their truck purrs like a kitten but had been around. It was at least 10 years old and had been used as a truck should but was kept clean. They pull up in front of the fancy restaurant and a valet comes to open the truck door, hands them a ticket, and everything seems fine. They walk into the restaurant and this is where things get interesting. They walk up to the host stand and the host tells them that they only accept applications on certain days and that they were currently fully staffed. J and D are confused and explain to the host that they were here for dinner. The host makes a point to look them up and down and then asks if they realize dinner is a minimum of $100 per person. Jay pulls the card out and hands it to the host, attempting to explain that he was invited by the owner. The host laughs and says something like, I don't know how you got this, but you are not welcome here and need to leave before I call the police. J and D didn't want to cause a scene and decide to go. While they are waiting at the valet, the owner shows up and asks if they enjoyed dinner and apologized for running late. J and D don't want to get anyone in trouble and try to mumble some excuse, but the owner realized this wasn't the same bubbly and friendly couple from last night and knows something is up. He escorts them in for dinner. The host looks shocked to see them back but doesn't say anything in front of the owner, who personally seats them before disappearing. J and D ordered drinks but said they felt so out of place they just really wanted to leave. Soon, the owner returns and asks the couple what happened. Not wanting to get anyone in trouble, they try to explain that it was a simple misunderstanding, but he had already gone to review the CCTV. Turns out one of the valets had seen their truck and had come in to warn the host because everyone knew the owner was due in and had been told to make the best possible impression. The owner asked for the valet and the host. He asked them both about the incident and warned them that he had already watched the tapes. Amid a hail of excuses and apologies, the owner asks if they would treat his parents that way. He never called them his parents but kind of implied it. J and D are shocked but play along with their precious little boy, going over the top and having a blast. Dinner is served and J and D end up having the time of their lives, being fawned over by the staff and acting out with their son. The owner ends up becoming fast friends with J and D and invites them to dinner whenever he's in town. They were finally able to return the favor and had him over for dinner, which almost gave their daughter a heart attack. As for the valet and host, neither were fired as J&D insisted. But the owner made the entire restaurant undergo retraining and warned them that he better never have similar complaints from other relatives in the area, leaving them to always treat customers like family. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Have a great day. Bye bye.